Welcome back to Cool Club's headquarters here in Scottsdale. We are here with Brian Williams, who's VP of R&D at Callaway Golf. We have also got Tim Reed, who is Senior VP of Tour, and of course, CEO and founder of Cool Clubs, Mark Timms. And today we want to talk golf balls. I'm going to let Mark lead off.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an interesting one because we did some testing, way back when I had Hot Sticks Technologies. We tested all the different balls, and there was a huge difference, like 20 years ago. This was right, and the difference between some of the better balls or lower spinning ones, higher. There was 1,000 RPMs difference at 100 miles an hour, and there was a huge difference in balls. And we do some ball testing now. We've done some stuff for Golf Digest recently, the last couple of years. All the balls seem to be pretty good. There's obviously differences in the price. You can get into the urethane balls are different than some of the other ones, but it seems to me all the balls are pretty good. But you guys just spent $1 bazillion redoing everything. So fill me in on why that was, and what am I missing here?
Yeah, let me start here. So, how do you make a better golf ball, right? I mean, it's at the limits of the current rules. You can take the spin up or down. You can change the launch angle. You can change the speed, but you're not really. You're just kind of changing the specs on it. So, when we went out and tested at the tour level, and we are so concerned about how to help a player improve their proximities regardless of what club they're hitting in the bag. And so, like, for example, if they're hitting a pitching wedge, they should be inside 16 or 17 feet on average. And let's just say they're hitting it. How do you help them another foot or 2 feet? That's going to change the outcome of their score. So we're worried about that. And as we started to test the golf ball, and we looked at it and started hitting it on a robot, we hit it once, we got the launch and spin. We rotated it 90 degrees, hit it again, launch and spin were different, slightly different. So there's this operating range that an individual golf ball would have. And on top of that, that golf ball inside of a dozen would have a range. And everybody was sort of the same. It's just, if I changed this spin rate of a 6-iron by 400 RPM, it could have changed the distance that it travels. It could go shorter or longer. So to improve that, if we can make a golf ball that had the tightest spin robustness around the golf ball, the tightest launch angle robustness around the golf ball, and a consistent speed, then we're going to help our players play better, right? And that was the whole idea. And so that led to this whole all-hands-on meeting with Chip and our golf ball team to what would it take to actually change that outcome.
Yeah, no, way back when we did a bunch of ball testing with Hot Sticks Technologies and stuff, one of the things that was a big deal right then was, Titleist had the thing where if you moved it and you put it on the seam, it would spin totally different than other ones. And some people say that was hype. Some people says it wasn't. Well, we tested on a robot, and it actually did change the spin quite a bit.
That's right.
I thought that problem was solved. Apparently, that's still a bit of a case where you have it hit ball in different spots on the golf ball. You get different spin rates.
Well, it's way better than it was.
Right.
Right. Way better. Like if you look at the range of the best golf ball companies out there,
Right.
on the premium golf ball side, it's way better. But how can you make it even better? How do you take quality? If you want to make the best ball, you've got to have the best quality and consistency through of that golf ball. And the slight things like the variation in weight or size, or the even the alignments of the layering, right? The mantle to the core to the cover, slight variations of that. Well, within, you can't see it by the human eye, but slight variations will change the compression of the ball in different locations around the ball. That's correlated to spin rate. So again, the challenge was, what would it cost me to make the same ball in any orientation? What does that look like? And that was the challenge. And
Splitting hairs gets expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you give that challenge to a bunch of really smart and motivated engineers, they'll bring you the answer, Chip, but it's going to be, could get quite expensive to do that.
Right.
It was a commitment, and it's one that Chip boldly gave to the team, and the team set out now on a multiple-year journey in search of what we now call precision technology.
Right.
And it's happened over years, but the plant is a totally different plant than what was there 5 years ago. The Chicopee plant that we manufacture in, it's an old historic building, right? It's a old Spalding plant,
Right.
Red brick building, but inside those old walls, it's an all new manufacturing facility. Everything from the starting point of our rubber mixing operation all the way through our finishing lines is effectively all stuff that's new in the last 5 to 6 years. I think the only thing that's left there that hasn't been replaced is the old packaging line, and that's because that's not impacting performance. It does its job.
The box doesn't help
everything
you
else
hit it further?
No, and it's actually it's my favorite operation to go watch. The automation that's there is actually really cool.
So, you're saying basically, the ball is more consistent considerably. So, how much difference are there in like standard golf balls on overall when you hit it on different specs, you turn it 90 degrees and hit different spots? What is the average? And I thought that was kind of a solved issue, but you're saying there's a couple hundred RPMs.
Yeah, there could be plus or
most golf
minus.
balls?
Yeah, I think you're going to
The best
see
golf balls in the world.
You're going to see a couple
RPMs?
hundred RPM variation around it, and you're talking about extremely tight tolerances to produce those. I mean, if you watch
Right.
the process, and even after you mold it, you've got to go through certain machines to kind of clean up the surface, and then you're adding paint to it or a clear coat to it. So all those variations will affect, kind of the golf ball and how a tour player would hit it, right? Because you're not lift cleaning and placing every time and putting it in the same
Right,
exact
right.
location. So sometimes you get these shots that it's not as bad as it used to be, but like the old mud balls, when you get a misalignment on one of the cores and it's all the way to the right, all of a sudden the ball goes 35 yards left. It's like, I thought I made a good swing. What just happened? Or the likelihood that same air is in the front of you, it might go really short. It might not spin enough. So today the golf balls are, for everybody's, way better, but to take it to the next level and challenge in the world to catch up is to make a very consistent golf ball.
Yeah, not to give you a hard time about stuff, but a few years back there was some question about how consistent are Callaway golf balls.
Yep.
Sounds like you guys went over the other end of the deep end here and just kind of tried to polish up everything and jumped right ahead of everybody on the specs. And
I think
how you doing with golf balls.
100%. I mean, that was fuel for us. We
Yeah,
some-
exactly. It
we had
sounds like
some-
you used that as to your advantage to somehow.
We had visible failures, right? And we knew we had to get better. So we drew a hard line in the sand. We recalibrated the entire way we think about quality in the golf ball plant. And it wasn't just equipment, right? That was the mindset from the operators there,
Right.
and the leaders there to say no bad golf balls get out the door. And there was a financial commitment behind that, right? We scrap golf balls if they weren't perfect. But since then, we've built into the process, with basically new molding equipment, new tools, precision molding equipment, precision grinding. We have all new grinding operations to get them to perfect roundness and then concentricity in the molds. And then we made a commitment to X-raying balls. So, again, what started as quality inspection is now just a built-in part of the quality control process. X-ray every ball that leaves the plant. Two different planes.
Most companies do X-rays and certainly batch stuff out and check them. But
Yeah.
I think, is that correct? You guys are the only guys that actually X-ray every single ball that goes through?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah, we look at it in two different planes.
Okay, right.
So
Yeah, it's three-dimensional that we're X-raying every golf ball down the line.
And you talked a lot about quality control there, but are you still working on what the core people would think about a golf ball change of like dimple pattern changes and core changes and cover changes? Are you still innovating in those areas? Does AI help at all in that space?
Yeah, that's so two parts of golf ball. There's the actual design, and then there's actually it's like a chef in a kitchen, right? So we get in the kitchen in order. Now allows the chef to kind of come up with different layering and different ideas to change the flight profile of a golf ball based on player preference.
And on that hot topic, USGA potential ball changes, and it's just like spanner in the works. It won't affect your average golfer for quite some time probably, but you two guys are in the hot seat, right? You're dealing with tour, you're dealing with R&D. There's going to be tour players that are going to potentially have to change a golf ball that they know and they love.
Yeah.
John Rahm's a great example. He fell in love with this new golf ball that he's got, and potentially has to move out of it. What does that mean in terms of how you have to produce golf balls, and what does it mean in terms of the clubs that the players might have to use?
Yeah. So if it's a rule that goes everywhere and it goes to every event, then yes, it's going to be a complete redo of his entire bag. Okay, because the golf ball will have different launch and spin parameters, whatever they may be, and to be able to control the overall distance standard and or speed. So now we'll have to start and rebuild what his bag would look like. It gets interesting is if they decide to have certain events could use the new ball and certain events could use your old ball. I'm not sure how to answer that other than they would have a different golf bag. They would have a different setup in there because we deal with, they want to have certain gapping, they want to have certain shot shapes, and you got to be able to, match all that together. So building it, it's just going to require a whole level of fitting, and to try to give them, the ability to play this at the same level and score at the same level.
Yeah. So in equipment changes, I mean, two trains of thought in my head are like, okay, well, I'm going to push the equipment in a different direction to squeeze every bit of yardage out of it again and just reverse the ruling. Or you go down a different route with a player and all of a sudden you're trying to hit different targets in the bag. You're trying to spin it more because now you're playing a different game of golf. Like, have you thought of these things already?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, they've been talking about this for some time and have looked for opinions. So we've been thinking through what this means, and there's certain things that we can do in the iron designs to maybe change the spin profile. I mean, we still have the ability to move center of gravity around. We have the ability to control MOI, and we have the ability to change ball speed with the way we design. So you throw AI in there, and what can we do to kind of offset some of these restrictions on the driver? Really, it's boiling down to making the driver go shorter. But at the end of the day,
Affects everything.
It could affect everything, or we could get in a position to where we've kind of recovered a lot of it, and then we're working through how to fix it in the driver.
I really didn't think about that. I thought about changing golf balls and all that, and obviously it makes total sense. But I mean, change the whole bag basically. If you change, to a different golf ball, it's going to spin whatever 1,000 RPMs more. That's a whole new set of wedges. It's a whole new set of drivers.
Yes.
And that's everything.
Yeah,
So,
and in a way they're doing in a way you don't see. They actually do some of that when they go to higher elevations. They change golf balls. Some of these players do.
Okay.
Because of the spin rate differences at the elevation, and then some of them will come with a different bag setup. They'll add some different long irons in there. They'll get rid. They go overseas. Right. They're taking out the 5 woods, and they're doing.
You got
that.
the guy that loves to do that the best, which is Phil. He'll change all kinds of stuff for whatever conditions.
That's right.
So yeah, that'll be interesting on that end.
Do you have balls out there that aren't, is the Chrome Soft XLS, for instance, the one that the guys are playing on tour? How another company might do left dot, left dash, and they're all meaning different things in the same ball. Do you have that on tour, or is it?
Yeah, we have. We only have primarily everything that we sell is in play, and we have a few other SKUs out there that would be fitted for a certain player profile, or they're actual prototypes of aerodynamics we're testing for future generations of golf balls for the masses. So again, using the tour for the ultimate test ground for performance.
And I mean, this is basically your story, right? This is you two together right now. That's what you do. You're hearing it from the tour, and you're getting to play with the products to figure it out, which is awesome. I think that's a really cool way of changing the industry. And the money you've put into it, I feel like, and not just money, knowledge and people, you're going to be ahead of any change that does occur. You're already ahead in the ball category by consistency. You're ahead in the club category with AI. I feel like you're ready for any change that comes around.
Yeah, thanks for saying so. We have been looking at it for a while, and the team's right now evaluating what's the smartest way to go do this. There's you can think of some of the variables that we'll be considering, right? Yeah. But looking at which variables those are and seeing where there might be ways to bring that back in, in concert with the clubs, versus ways that you might change a golf ball that you can't do much about. So we're digesting it. Our team's right in the middle of it right now, as you can imagine. But we'll keep our club and our golf ball teams closely aligned so we come up with the best solution for our players. Yeah. But yeah, something that we've started really diving into those conversations now.
So many levers in golf clubs, right? As you say, the spin goes up, maybe we start to rethink the groove geometries. I mean, it's not, it just get a chance to reimagine what clubs would look like: loft, lie specs, CGs, grooves, face.
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but it kind of equates to, I play once a year, I play in a Hickory tournament, I play 5 rounds of golf, and totally different ball, obviously. You play Chrome Soft and that, but you do get to use a regular ball. But, all the clubs are totally different. Everything's all different. So it's just a totally different game. And it sounds like that's almost what happens with these tour players. They have clubs designed around the ball. And is the USGA talking about having relatively tight tolerances as far as what they come out with this ball, or you have any idea of what they're looking to do to the ball to make it go shorter? Is it just ball speed coming off, and they leave you alone to do the aerodynamics and everything else? Is that kind of what they're talking about doing?
My understanding is you submit product to them, and then they go through their exhausting testing on that, and it has to meet its initial launch conditions and then be beneath the overall distance goal. And so as long as this is no different than current golf balls, right? They get submitted, and then they get on the conforming list. And then throughout the year, they do come out to the various tour events, and they do spot check the golf balls that are on the truck. So every manufacturer that carries golf balls would have supply for the particular players, and they'll come in and grab golf balls throughout the year, and then they take them back and they refly them all, retest them all, and to make sure. So I think that covers sort of whether they're operating inside the tolerance, which, again, that's we all are making sure that we follow, just like COR. It is whatever's on that truck, and for the best players, we're not trying to change the specs later on that, because there's a high penalty for that, and it's not worth it.
No, definitely not worth the bad process for sure.
That's right.
And to throw another spanner in the works, you're not just working with one speed end. I mean, you guys do have some high-speed players, but it's going to affect speeds differently. Super high-speed players are going to get different results to the lower-speed guys, so their bag needs are going to be variable.
Yeah, I think your slower swing speed players won't see much of a change, to be honest. Some of them are going to, because sometimes you get a slow speed player that you change the spin rate profile for them, and they pick up distance. You've seen that in your own fittings.
Yep.
So it's it really, when you think about it, they're just trying to maybe slow the driver down, but it's going to change through the bag. And wonder at the end of the day, we'll find out later, did the average scores change? Did the players, these are athletes, they are not going to fail, and they're going to continue to play great, and they're still going to shoot 60 once in a while. That happens sometimes. These guys are good.
Yeah, I mean, purely my opinion is that we've become more intelligent species. The guys that are out there are doing everything. Every stone is turned over now, and they are working at every single aspect. You're talking about your AI putter faces. You're talking about AI driver faces, golf shaft technology. Everything is done. I mean, and outside of golf equipment, you've got the trainers, the physical trainers, and the way that these guys treat their bodies nowadays. They're not smoking 16 cigarettes and having a can of Coke on the golf course. It's just different human beings.
And I have perspective because I go to a bunch of junior golf tournaments still, and I go to a bunch of college events. I was just at the Sage Valley Juniors, which is 60 of the top players in the world, and the sheer size of them and the athleticism. You got 11th graders, 15-year-olds that are hitting 180 ball speed right now. Okay, that's them. That is them being, an athlete, and that you can't hold. It's not the equipment necessarily that's causing that.
No.
And they're bigger, and they're taller, and they're faster.
Bryson's that example. I mean, as much as he's got all the weird stuff with technology going on, he didn't just put a 46-inch driver in the bag and go, got it. He went and put on 40 pounds or something. Like, that's what he did. He changed his body to hit the golf ball like he does.
That's right.
So I think that's maybe a deeper answer, and there's some other things that need to be done, but I think you guys are ready for all of it. So
yeah, we're not. We love challenges. That's not a problem for us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
I'm not sure it'd be good for the golf game, to be honest, from my standpoint, but it will give you guys something to do.
Yeah, it keeps you busy.
Brian's looking for something to do. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to speculate on that as well. That's good fun.
Us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.